Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Richard Arjun Kaul, and welcome to my video internet show. Today is June the 26th, 2015, and I'm going to be talking today about the internet, and specifically about Google, and even more specifically about what happens when people go onto the internet and they use Google. And we can pretty much find anything about anybody at any time, anywhere with Google, good or bad. So over the years, because of a number of high-profile cases that I've been involved in, both in the United Kingdom and most recently here in the United States, when my name is searched, Dr. Richard Arjun Kaul, on page 1, information comes up. Now, there's, I think, 10 listings on page 1. And page 1 is really, it's kind of where people begin and end. So when people search for things, they really don't go past page 1 unless they're really digging. So on page 1, when you use the search term Dr. Richard Arjun Kaul, there are 10 listings that come up. Now, 9 of them are very positive. They talk about my work, talk about the case. 1 of them is negative, and it's a listing from an article that was written on published on November the 17th, 2013 by Dr. Unfriendly journalist Lindy Washburn, whom I've talked about before, at the Bergen Record. Now, her article is probably one of the largest articles she or the paper has ever written about one doctor. I mean, a friend of mine, when she read the article, she said, they don't even devote that much paper space to presidents. So I didn't quite know whether to feel good or bad about that. But it's a huge article, and part of, I'm sure, their intention was to try and create so much digital content that it would always appear on page 1. Well, I have a Google Plus account which ranks very highly, so this video is going to appear on page 1, and I'm going to talk about this particular article, about Miss Washburn, and about the day that the interview was carried out. The story was replete with misunderstandings, inaccuracies, and in some cases, outright lies. She didn't understand the legal system in England and had no concept of what the case in the UK was about. She misrepresented this in her story. She failed to mention one very critical component about the case in England, the fact that it was proved that I was not using a mobile phone, which was the crux of that case. She then went on to talk about the cases in the United States for which the medical board had suspended my license, and which I have maintained was as a consequence of political corruption. So I told Miss Washburn, I said, look, they're talking about 11 patients supposedly having sustained injuries. Well, in fact, it's not 11. There's only 3 patients out of that 11 that have any type of measurable injury. The rest of them were just looking for money. And I said, Lindy, when you compare that to the number of cases that I performed over the 10 years, I performed 6,000 spine procedures, 800 minimally invasive discectomies and fusions. My complication rate is 0.01%. My outcomes are 90 to 95% good to very good. I painted the picture for her, but of course, this was not information she wanted to hear or chose to honestly report. Now, that's on the professional side, and, Lindy Washburn's a journalist. She's not a doctor. She has no degree in medicine. She doesn't understand the nature of spine surgery. She doesn't understand the nature of medicine. And what has always surprised me is that if you're going to have a journalist writing about healthcare issues, then shouldn't they have a background in healthcare so that when they do write those articles, they write them from a position of understanding, as opposed to a position of writing a story that's going to be a sensationalist piece. Secondly, she, in the article, and I suppose humorously, and in many ways oddly, made some observations about me personally, about my, she referred to it as my upper crust British accent. Well, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I grew up actually in poverty. But I was taught how to speak English properly, so I think she might be confusing good diction with social class. She referred to me as smoothly charming, which I'm not too sure exactly what that means, but I suppose it's a compliment of sorts. She sat on a bench in the part of the surgical centre and interviewed me, and it took about 3 to 4 hours. Now, the thing that really, I suppose, concerned me then, and has since, and continues to be a factor, which Miss Washburn and her newspaper are going to have to address, is this. At the end of the interview, after she'd finished asking all these questions and discussions about hospitals and surgical centres, from her left thigh, she pulled out a video recorder, one of these little digital recorders, and said to me, "Oh, Dr. Kaul, by the way, I've been recording the interview." Without asking my permission, without informing me at the beginning that she was going to record, without even saying, "Is it okay that I record this interview?" What she did was illegal. It was wrong. She recorded me without my permission and without my knowledge. Now, she quickly left the surgical centre with her photographer before I had any chance to either grab or ask her for the recorder. But the following day, I sent her an email requesting a copy of the audio file. She denied and said that she was not going to send me a copy. I sent back another email saying that I was entitled to a copy of that audio file so that I could take that copy and put that onto the internet so that the public can listen to the audio file and read her story and judge for themselves the vast differences between what I said and what Miss Washburn printed in the newspaper. And I think if Miss Washburn had the courage, the honesty and the integrity to do that, I think my point would be very clearly proved. So I am talking to you, ostensibly from my Google Plus platform, which is on page 1. And when you, the reader or the viewer who has Googled me, comes down to read Miss Washburn's article, which was entitled, just to add some spice to this whole thing, Pompton Lake's Pain Doctor, a shocking story of damaged patients. Well, they're taught how to write headlines to grab people's attention. But when you come to her story, bear everything in mind that I've just said and ask yourself the question, why did she not send me the audio recording? Thank you.